Hey there, welcome back to this week's episode of the C-Town Podcast, where Seattle business owners, entrepreneurs, and community leaders are invited on to share their stories with us. I'm your host, Christian Harris. This week's episode of the C-Town Podcast is brought to you by C-Town Real Estate. Their mission to make a difference extends beyond just their unique and unconventional approach with their clients and their agents. They partner with the community to give back a percentage of the proceeds from each home sale to a local nonprofit of their client's choice. Visit ctown.com, sea-town.com, and experience the difference with C-Town Real Estate today. Today I am going to be interviewed by the great Laura Swift, so I'm a little nervous to be on this side of the microphone and camera, but hopefully it'll be interesting. So.
Well, hello everybody. I've been practicing my NPR voice, and here from C-Town Podcast we have Christian Harris, the owner of C-Town Real Estate. How was that?
Good.
It was good, right?
Yep.
It's good. I've been practicing.
Excellent.
Well, this is a banner day for us here in West Seattle because we have switched seats and I am going to be interviewing you for your own podcast.
I know, it's crazy.
How do you feel about that?
I usually don't get nervous doing this, but now I'm in the hot seat, so.
And well, I appreciate you being game for this. And the reason I suggested it, I was so impressed with our interview and the quality of the questions. I thought we needed to get to know you just a little bit more. I do have some surprises for you, of course.
Uh-oh.
So, no, in a good way.
Okay.
In a good way, but I have been reviewing your biography and also the interview questions that you normally ask everyone, myself included. So let's get started, shall we?
Alrighty.
So you started the C-Town Real Estate, and I know a little bit about you and the reasons that you decided to go rogue, shall we say.
Sure.
Can you tell us a little bit about why you decided to start this amazing business?
Sure. The short answer is because I feel like there's lots of room for improvement in the industry. It was primarily kind of two main points. One, I wanted to be able to have control of my destiny, but in that to be able to do something bigger than just helping people buy and sell real estate, which is great. It's nice to help customers, do that. But really, I see this as a means to serve the larger community and the people. So, which is why we built in philanthropy into the business model, and we hopefully draw other agents that want to do the same thing to be able to use their business to not only help their clients but also help community, local nonprofits, that sort of thing. The second element is that there's not a lot of typically in real estate, the brokerage game tends to be just a numbers game. You get hired onto brokerage and they say, hey, go for it. Good luck. Let us know if you need anything. You're kind of on your own. So there's a high failure rate. I figured, I'm a pretty organized person. I love systems and processes and all that kind of stuff. And I thought, well, what if I could provide all of that to the agents so that they can do what they do best, which is being in front of people, making relationships, helping people, and I could provide all the back end stuff so they don't have to worry about it. It's kind of a win-win, get to systematize all the admin stuff and all the stuff they don't like doing, and free them up to do what they do best as agents. So.
That's very interesting. So you're giving people a platform to be successful in a different way than a traditional brokerage. That's
what I'm going for. I mean, a lot of brokerages, a lot of franchises have systems in place, but they're either so far out of date, they're not very useful, or it's they don't really have it's discombobulated. So you might have like 3 different CRMs that don't talk to each other, and kind of all these things out there, and there's nothing in place to kind of walk someone through. Hey, you're a new agent. Here's the training to like set your business up as a real business, as opposed to just good luck, go figure it out, and I hope you make it. So really, I see empowering the agents to be the best they can, with the end result being that the client gets a uniformly high experience every time with any agent here at C-Town. So
I like that. So you're operationalizing the method, right, behind real estate brokerage, but the goal, it sounds like, is you are creating people who have a high sense of self-esteem, they're proud of what they do, and those things are being translated into their client interactions.
Yeah, it's still a relational business, and we still emphasize that, but we're able to use processes, systems, technology to enhance that, as opposed to some of the newer brokerage models, which is trying to replace that human element. So that's I kind of see us as a hybrid, kind of tech-enabled, but it's not tech-enabled to replace the agent. It's tech-enabled to enhance that relationship between the client and the agent and the brokerage and the community.
So if I approached you as an agent, I'm brand new to the world of real estate, what kind of attributes do you look for when you are determining if a person would be the right fit for you?
The first thing I look at is character. Because there's a lot of people just like, hey, I want to get in real estate to make a lot of money. And they don't care about helping the community or helping other agents or being part of a team. So I'm really looking for someone who's collaborative, who wants to, ideally is already involved in the community, or whether that's volunteering or giving money or whatever. So someone who's kind of outward looking, not inward looking. So that's kind of the biggest thing I look for, because you can teach skills. You can't really teach character, or it's a lot harder to. I will say, trying to change someone. So that's kind of the biggest thing I look for. If they're teachable, if they want to do something bigger, than just help themselves. We all have to make a living, but you can do more than just line your pockets, in this business. So.
And how would you describe your managerial style?
I'm a little bit of a control freak.
Okay, let's talk about that. Let's unpack that.
Yeah.
Let's unpack that. Let's talk about that.
Which is challenging in this business, because so our brokerage is set up where the agents are independent contractors. They're not employees. So there's only so much direction you can give them. I can tell them how to run the business all day long, but they don't really have to listen. And so having people on board that that want to learn, that want to use the technology, that want to buy into the culture and what we're trying to do something bigger, make impact. That's pretty important, because if they don't, they could just hide off in the corner and do their own thing and not care about anyone else and not be involved. But that's not really the kind of agent I'm looking for. Yeah.
Well, when we talk about the greater good and bigger impact and community, those are things that you bring up quite often. So let's talk about the greater good. I think for you, the real estate transaction is far more than you finding the right house for someone to live in. It goes far beyond that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the greater good of the community. What exactly does that mean to you?
Sure. Being in real estate, I can't really think of any other industry that has more potential for impacting the community, for good or for ill, if you will. So it just kind of makes sense. I did finish carpentry for 15 years and remodeling before this, but that is a much more isolated thing, because you're working for a specific homeowner for a long period of time, typically, and that kind of thing. But with something like this, there's much more visibility. You've got a lot more transactions. It's a lot bigger dollar amount. And with so much money kind of flowing through the real estate industry, I think there's plenty to be able to give back, specifically to nonprofits that are dealing with, like in Seattle, we've got a big homelessness issue. There's a lot of nonprofits doing great work, so trying to partner with nonprofits that are doing work kind of, in that relate to our industry. So specifically, we encourage our agents to donate a percentage of their commission, at the end of real estate transaction. I usually say, hey, tell your client, ask your client, is there a nonprofit they're passionate about and they would like to donate to? We'll donate on behalf of them. If they don't have one, we have several that we recommend that we like to work with regularly. And then more recently, in the last few months, we wanted to kind of step up the game and essentially create our community partnership program, where we partner with nonprofits like Westside Baby, where if we get someone who comes to us and wants to buy or sell a house and said, hey, I heard about you through Westside Baby, then we give 25% of our commission back to them, because that's a much bigger number than what we can normally do through a regular transaction. So it kind of helps everyone. We're getting more business so that we have more to be able to give back. So.
So I think that's a really interesting piece of your business model, is you do like to, and not on a superficial level, but you really actually really like to dig into the nonprofit community. Mm-hmm. And I think you recognize more than anyone that the nonprofits are working hard to serve pieces of our population that have typically been underserved. And I actually had a conversation with Nancy from Westside Baby just mm-hmm. recently, and the look in her eye when she was talking about you and the good that you're doing is something that you just can't even begin to measure. Mm-hmm. And as I've read your biography, I see that you have that nonprofit thread throughout your entire life. What started that? Was it your parents or something that you've just curated over your lifetime? Tell me about that. Why is that so important to you?
That's a good question. Kind of looking back, I mean, I'd probably have to credit my faith. Mm-hmm. I mean, I became a Christian in high school, and really, I think it was out of that, kind of the awareness that like there's a lot of people in need, a lot of people that don't have the privileges that we have, and that sort of thing. And so my initial kind of involvement, I would say, kind of my eyes were open when I went on a mission trip in my early 20s to Mexico, to Tijuana, and we mm-hmm. built some houses, and I was like, I've never seen such poverty. This is amazing that people live like this, and the majority of the world statistically lives like that. And so that kind of opened my eyes and gave me a little bit of a heart for people that don't look like me and aren't living in this area, or don't have the same opportunities that I do, and so getting more involved with local churches and stuff. It's very much a kind of a part of the natural rhythm of not just looking in, take care of our own, but reaching out and going out and kind of unconditionally like serving with our hands and feet, people that need it. So I mean, that's how I got involved with Westside Baby initially. It was a small church group, I was part of. We would go out, once a month and help, pick orders and stuff. And so that's kind of how I got exposed to specifically to that nonprofit. But so I think that's kind of what drives it. Kind of a love for humanity. Mm-hmm. I mean, everyone's human, regardless of where they are in life and decisions they've made, and we all need grace at times, we all need help at times. So
I like that answer. I think it really encapsulates like who you are as a person and the things that you want to achieve. That need to serve your community, is that one of the driving forces that helped you decide to move into your own brokerage? I mean, it's a big decision. Yeah. You have the safety of a known name, and then you decide to start something that is completely yours. Yeah. Was there a defining moment that you decided it was time to make that leap, or was it just over time that there was just a series of things that you decided it was time to really strike out on your own and see what you can accomplish?
Sure. Initially, I think it was kind of a discovery process. Mm-hmm. A couple years into being a real estate agent, I was kind of saying, like how can we do things different? And I started kind of coming up against the walls, the limits of being at a big franchise, and kind of discovered, well, if I really wanted get outside the box, no franchise is going to let me do what I want to do, marketing wise, or even be able to speak plainly and honestly about the faults of the industry. Like I get a lot of pushback. There's a lot of myopic thinking within real estate, and so just to even be honest about how we could do better, you get a lot of flack from other agents and brokerages and stuff. So there's that, and there's I could always have done the philanthropy thing on my own as a single agent within another brokerage, but I really wanted to be able to do something bigger, help create a culture as opposed to being kind of subject to someone else's culture. Mm-hmm. So that was a big part of it. I mean, one of the things that kind of drives my life is that I try to and maybe you've seen this with the involvement with with the West Seattle Chamber or whatever. I try to lead with like, how can I help and serve other people? first, and so like I try to end every conversation with, if there's anything I can do, let me know, even if it's not real estate, and so I try to instill that, into my clients and stuff, or not clients, but my agents, trying to say, hey, there's times when, you're going to be helping a client and maybe, they're trying to figure out if they want to sell a house and it's clearly not in their best interest to do so. I want you to tell them that. Like, yes, you're going to be saying no to a paycheck, but in the end, it's what's best for them, and that's really what we're paid for. And so, so I try to do that with other businesses. That's the whole goal of the podcast is, how can I do something to leverage my skill set to help bless and other people and businesses and clients, agents, whatever. Like.
Well, that marries us nicely to my next question, which is about the Seatown podcast. I have to tell you, I was impressed with the setup here and the way that you thought through the questions. Tell me a little bit about the podcast itself. What inspired you to start the podcast, and where do you see this going?
Sure. So honestly, between you and me?
Oh yeah, just between us.
Just between us.
And everybody who's going to be listening very soon.
Right.
Yes.
It was really it was kind of twofold. One, it was a positioning move, essentially, a content marketing strategy, if you will. Because, if I go around telling people I'm in real estate and whatnot, like, it's a sales job. Most people aren't interested in talking to salespeople. They don't like being sold to, and it's just not that interesting typically. But, hey, I've got a podcast where I interview business owners, yada, yada. Like, that's much more interesting. So really it was an attempt, and that's why, I wrote co-authored the book and stuff, and why I do a lot of things I do. It's kind of a long-term, how do I establish myself as not just a good real estate agent, but someone who gives back, who's involved in the community, and really this is just an excellent excuse to be able to meet other business owners, like I said, able to help them, nonprofits and whatever, and it's a great conversation starter. But so it's kind of all those things, positioning, aspect of it, and then also just the being able to kind of give back and be, have a better excuse to be involved in the community and be able to give something to the other business owners. And I'm kind of, I don't know if I say nerdy, whatever, but I'm much more interested in the business, like growing a business that helps people and stuff, than just the function of selling real estate. And so I'm kind of working towards, getting out of actually selling real estate myself and just being able to mentor, teach, train, other agents and grow the business and the brand and that kind of stuff. So I'm much more interested in the business side of things. So talking to other business owners and nonprofits and getting in the weeds about that is very interesting to me. So.
And have you learned a lot from just about human nature as you've gone through these podcasts? What things have, as you've interviewed, how many people now would you say? How many interviews have you had?
I'm on episode 60.
60
right
or so?
Right around there, yeah. It's been interesting because I've interviewed mostly business owners and some nonprofits. So it's pretty interesting because you kind of start seeing themes, in the struggles and what most business owners struggle with, but they don't realize that all business owners struggle with it. So it can be kind of reassuring, kind of have that conversation, be like, these things that you're having difficulty with, that's normal, and getting involved in the business community can be very almost therapeutic, because you realize, I'm not crazy. It's not just me, flailing and trying to figure it out. That's kind of the par for the course.
If you had the ability to run for office, would you run? Tell me honestly, do you want to be mayor of Seattle?
No, I don't. I don't like public speaking. I don't like being in limelight.
Oh, okay. All right. How are you doing with this interview? Are you settling into it a little bit?
I feel a little flushed, but I think I'm okay.
Well, it's getting kind of warm out. So.
It is kind of warm.
So you wouldn't want to run for public office?
Probably not. I've thought about it before, because, I used to be a lot more involved and up to date with politics, but I was always stressed out and upset. So just kind of pisses you off, a lot of the times, with the way things are going or the way you think they should go, I don't think I would, because I just don't like being at the center of things. I prefer being in the background,
Right.
hopefully enabling and empowering other people to do great things in the limelight. But
so talking about leadership, let's talk about your wife.
okay.
So I remember this conversation that we had a little while ago, and you said the thing that you love about your wife, many things you love about your wife, is she can make food appear. She's like a magician when it comes to the food. I think you had an after-hours party here for the chamber, and we just happened to be talking about food because the food was amazing.
Yep. Shout out to Lexi Castro for that.
Lexi, that was ridiculous. Oh my goodness. I don't think I took more than 3 steps away from those little, whatever it was in those little plastic cups of treasure and amazingness.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your lovely wife and her ability to make food appear for you.
Sure.
So I'm sure that's one of the things you love about her. But let's talk a little bit, how did you meet and how long have you been married?
Sure. We met at church, actually.
Yep.
We have a pretty unique story in the sense of, we were a little older. I think I was 28, she was 32. So we met, and I think we knew each other for a few months, but then once we started dating, I think we dated for about a month before I asked her to marry me, and then we got married a month and a half after that.
Okay.
So on our honeymoon, we had known each other for 6 months, which is not what I generally recommend for most people. It worked out for us. We've been married 12 years now. The first 3 years were a little crazy because I went to the East Coast for military training, and she was in a different state on the East Coast for her internship, because the reason she came here to Seattle was to become a dietitian or a graduate degree at Bastyr University. So she was just finishing up her degree when I met her, and we were both kind of going off to different things. And within a couple years of being married, I was deployed for a year, and so I don't think it was till like our 3rd or 4th year of marriage we actually lived together for the majority of a year.
Oh goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
So that was a big challenge in the beginning, but obviously you got through it.
Yep. Yeah, we made it this far, married 12 years, got a 7-year-old son, live here in West Seattle, and yeah.
Well, we probably have some single gentlemen that are going to be listening to this podcast. Do you have what are your, top 3 tips?
Oh my goodness.
For, well, obviously you know what you're doing. So top 3 tips for a single gentleman who would like to ask a lady out. How did you?
Yeah. My tips would come from what I learned, not to do.
Right. Okay. So let's say a not to do. What
Sure.
not to do?
Yeah, I wasn't super successful before we got married, and had a lot to learn after I got married. So, I would say my recommendation. I have a kind of a different view than a lot of people. I'd say be assertive, not necessarily aggressive, but don't. And I didn't necessarily do this. I was the one who's like, hey, here's my number, and she's like, what for? Do you want me to call you? Is this a friendship? Is this kind of that. Kind of playing it safe. Don't play it safe as a guy.
Don't play it safe.
If you enjoy a gal, ask her out. Make your intentions known. Don't just kind of play it safe and see if she leads or what she,
Right.
Don't make your feelings
Go
based
for your
on her
dreams.
response.
Got it.
Per se. I think that's kind of the biggest one, and I say that primarily because I wasn't super assertive, and I think in Seattle, guys tend to play it safe, and they're kind of passive, and I don't think girls in general like that.
Right.
But obviously, you gotta read it. People are different. Doesn't always work. There's compatibility and stuff. I don't know. I don't have tons of dating advice because I wasn't super successful at it when I was single. So.
But that's your top piece of advice.
I'd say so.
Be aggressive.
Not aggressive. I'd
not
say
aggressive, but assertive.
Intentional. Be intentional.
Intentional. Okay,
Yeah.
That's a good word.
Intentional.
So be intentional.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, make sure you write that down. Be intentional. Well, I like the word ethic because that's what I picked up throughout your book. And not only ethics for the realtor themselves, but also for the homeowner. Sometimes it seems like homeowners have an emotional attachment to their house that somehow translates into a increased property value. Now, in today's market, we are certainly seeing a warm, very warm property values, but I still think that homeowners will attach an emotional investment on top of that. And as a real estate professional, what do you recommend when you have a homeowner that thinks their house is worth $1.5 million?
Sure.
But it's really only worth $800,000, which I can't even say only $800,000, because that's a ridiculous number right now. Yeah. Let's be honest. But how do you address that? What do you do? What do you tell your new agents when you have someone that has like an emotional value, and ethically you could probably put it on the house for 1.2, but the reality is worth about $800,000? How do you get through that?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to deal with that. Sometimes sellers are just stubborn and you're not going to be able to get through. But typically my line of reasoning with them would be to start with the numbers. Okay, here's what's actually sold in your market. Here's how it compares to yours. It's tough because pricing a house and kind of that strategy, it's largely educated guessing. If you get 5 different CMAs, different market analysis from different agents, you'll probably end up in the ballpark, valuation wise, because they're all looking at the same numbers and kind of doing the same kind of similar analysis. But after 5 years of reading articles in the Seattle Times about how ridiculous, the housing market is, sometimes sellers get this overinflated idea of, I could just ask for anything and I'll get it, right? With 16 offers, it's like, no, there's still a cap. It's still, it's still based on economics. And people are only willing to pay so much for a property. So it's kind of having those conversations. I tend to be on the conservative side when it comes to pricing. And sometimes that's bitten me because agents tend, typically if you're interviewing to help a seller, a lot of the times agents will just tell the seller whatever they want to hear. Or, you want this amount of money, we'll get you that. Just sign here. Again, once you sign it, you put it on the market, okay, it doesn't sell for that. Right. Now you're talking price reduction. Now you're talking, it takes longer. Now people are like, well, why has it been on the market for a month? What's wrong with it? Now that doesn't happen too often, but if you overprice a house, that'll still happen. And so it can be challenging, and I kind of use those stories of, hey, here are our options, and here's the most likely outcome from those options. Sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they just want to save money, and they go with Redfin or something. There's a lot of different models out there, and it's good to find a model that works for you, Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you've got the ethical model.
That's what I'm going for. I see my job as is helping clients with what's best for them.
Well, let's talk about West Seattle a little bit. So you've been in West Seattle since 2007. And were you a carpenter when you first moved to West Seattle?
Yes. Yep.
So let's talk about what you build. Like, what is your biggest carpentry achievement?
It's hard to say. There's, the trajectory of my carpentry, basically, I started doing carpentry professionally. I was 21, 22. Pretty young. I kind of fell into it. And I worked for a company on the east side. All they did was finish carpentry. And so they had, like a dozen different crews that did everything from, it was all new construction or extensive remodels. So, and so I started doing baseboards, the trim around the floor. And I just did that for a month. And basically their attitude was basically you become the master of baseboard, and then we'll move you on to the casing, for windows and doors, and then we'll move you on to this. And so basically they, trained me how to do it, and I ended up on, like one of the high-end crews, and we, did some Street of Dreams homes on the east side, and we worked on Ichiro's house, and what's his name, Lenny Wilkins, something, some famous Sonics coach from the 70s. You know, there's houses in Medina and Mercer Island, and those are all pretty amazing because they're just super high-end homes where, you know, a crew of 6 finished carpenters would be there for 6 months doing finished carpentry. You know, your average production house maybe a week, you know, doing finished carpentry. So kind of so I got to work with some amazing carpenters, got to learn some great skills, and that was part of the reason I got into real estate, because, you know, when I was, you know, I'm in the Army National Guard, and so I was on orders for a couple of years, just doing Army stuff, and I could only handle so much of that because it's so, you know, office job, it's kind of bureaucratic, and it kind of wears on you. And so I knew when my orders were going to end, and I'm like, I don't, the easy thing to do would be fall back into carpentry. You know, I'm getting up there in years, and I didn't want to be swinging a hammer when, you know, I was 40 or older. And so I was trying to think of a different career, and real estate kind of made sense because, like, I already understand the product. I know how they go together. You know, what's important and stuff, and that obviously helps with, you know, when it comes to inspections and doing walkthroughs and that kind of stuff. So so that's why I chose this. And then, you know, really what one of the big aha moments for me for opening my own brokerage was when I was looking at doing this. You know, we're like, okay, if I really want to do what I want to do, I'm gonna have to open my own brokerage. Okay, well, now we got to start thinking about commission models and business structure and, you know, business plan and how we're going to support other agents and that sort of thing. And the more I thought about kind of the mentoring, the agent support, all that kind of stuff, like, I started getting really excited, and I was thinking, wait a sec, this is what I really enjoy. It's like how to empower other people to be the best they can be at their job. Doing the actual real estate, it's fine, but I enjoy, like, empowering agents more than doing the actual day-to-day work of real estate.
So what I'm hearing then is when you started your carpentry profession, you were mentored by other finished carpenters.
Yeah, very much so.
And so do you think that was embedded in you deeper than you had really envisioned? It seems like you've brought that with you, those lessons, those life lessons with you. Sure. And you're applying them now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was kind of the first element of it, and then I haven't really thought about that. And then, you know, you definitely, I think a big part of my style and leadership has come from my military training, kind of coming up through the ranks, you know, as a NCO and having junior soldiers under me, and then, you know, transitioning to becoming a warrant officer and having even more responsibility. And so I think, yeah, there's definitely that. And then in the church community, you know, there's definitely, I think, that, you know, kind of mentoring and counseling others and having that done to me as well. I think it kind of, I think it all kind of plays into it now that I kind of think back. I hadn't really thought about it in those terms before, but yeah.
Well, you mentioned that you have a 7-year-old son, and what's his name?
Nolan.
Do you find yourself now as a father? Do you find that you are helping Nolan walk in those shoes, those values that you carry now?
I'd like to think so. The words of my mother have come true of, I hope you have a kid like you someday. And
well, let's talk about that. Okay.
And so, you know, I used to think I was a patient person. Then I became a father to a very free-spirited, opinionated boy. So apparently I was the same way. I don't know.
I'm sure you were perfect.
Yeah. And so that's probably been one of the biggest growing challenges, you know. I mean, I think in general, you know, because as a single person, you kind of living life the way you want to live it, and then you get married, and you're like, okay, now I have to account for someone else and what they want to do, and, you know, what's important to them and how they work. And so I thought, okay, you know, that's really refined me, and now I'm really selfless. And then I had a kid. I'm like, oh, this is a whole nother level of selfless, where, you know, like, I can't let my emotions be dictated by whether or not he's, you know, obeying me the way I want to be, or obeyed or respected or whatever, you know, because he's a kid. Like, it's definitely refining, I'd say, as far as, you know, kind of the personal character and having to be patient and understanding and that sort of thing. And, you know, I think a lot of that translates to just dealing with people, you know, how people work, what motivates people, some expectations not being met that they wanted to be met, or they're reacting out of fear, or something. So, if you can see people as people and to kind of understand human psychology a little bit, and I think a lot of that starts with being self-aware. Like I see, wait, why did I respond that way? Like, what's going on here? There's something deeper that's driving that. That's out of character,
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can do that, I think you can relate to people much better. You can serve clients much better. You can understand maybe why people aren't responding the way maybe you would, or you think you would, or whatever. So.
And do you think Nolan has helped you achieve a different sense of self-awareness then, as you've gone through the 7 years with him so far?
I think so. The biggest challenge with that, I think, was just realizing that I was much more reactionary than I thought I was, because I always thought, I'm cool, calm, collected, analytical.
Mm-hmm.
No. I respond emotionally, just like anyone else. And so that's really helped me, it's mostly my wife again, reminding me, hey, you can't let him control your emotions. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if he's, freaking out, you can't freak out too. You've got to stay calm. And
Have you found that you give people a different amount of latitude when they are being led by emotions, and you can recognize that they're just scared or
Sure.
upset or disappointed that they didn't get the house?
Right.
And do you feel like you've learned those skills in a different way than being a father?
I think it definitely plays into it.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to look past how they're responding, or even what they're saying. So a lot of the times when I'm helping people, buy or sell a house, I start with, I don't start talking about the property. I start talking about what their motivation is, like what's important to them, what are they looking for, because sometimes the things that they say when they get emotional don't line up with the things that they said, when they're more level-headed. And so, you kind of remind them of that, back here you said this, what I'm hearing you say now is that, just kind of hopefully be able to calm them down, bring them back to
Mm-hmm.
kind of what's important to them, as opposed to, let them kind of freak out in the moment.
So let's see here. Let's do this. Let's do a recap. So You own your own business. You're a mentor to how many agents?
We've 10 agents right now.
10 agents. And you started Seatown when?
January of 2017, so it's been a year and a half.
January 2017. You have 10 agents now.
Yep.
Married, lovely
Yep.
lady, 12
Yep.
years, 7-year-old son. You have a podcast. You're an author. What, tell me, do you do in your free time, if you have some?
Free time, what's that?
Mm-hmm.
I've been, being a business owner, it's very easy to have your business just run your life.
Very true.
And so the last couple of months, I've been really trying to be intentional about a little more self-care, a little more time with the family. So prioritizing eating right, which isn't too hard with my wife being a dietitian.
Mm-hmm.
Getting back in the gym, taking care of myself, it's just so I can sleep better at night and I feel better and, healthier and all that kind of stuff. So we're trying to get out more, take advantage of the Great Northwest, do more hikes and stuff with the family. So that's probably the biggest free time. I used to rock climb, used to mountain bike. Those take a little more commitment, but hikes you can, do little day hikes here and there. So
With the family.
Yeah. Yep. Try to get in date nights and enjoy, local restaurants and bars.
Well, that brings me into my gift that I have for you. I have a gift.
Oh.
So if you don't know this about Christian, that one thing that he gives his guests is a coffee mug, a Seatown coffee mug that I use in my office every day.
Great.
Drink my water from that. And this amazing book, The Value-Driven Approach to Sell Real Estate, which was a great book. Actually, my perspective of the book, it was an ethics book. So I like that. But I have a couple of gifts for you, and then we have the lightning round.
Oh, okay.
So I know you gave me the lightning round. So I have my own lightning round questions for you.
Excellent.
So So Christian, he gave me this amazing mug, but I do not have amazing mugs from the Junction Association, but I do have this mug from Verity Credit Union.
Oh.
And so I think you may already have one.
I do not.
You do not have one,
Nope.
thank goodness. So I want to give you this Verity Credit Union mug.
Awesome.
So this is my gift to you.
Oh, well, thank you. I'll show the
And
camera for those watching on YouTube.
very nice. And then I am not an author like you, Christian, but I do have this magazine, and it's Dwell magazine,
Mhm.
and it's from it's from December of 2017.
Okay.
So this magazine is my gift to you. I did not write this magazine, but I have flipped through it. And it's Dwell, a home in the modern world, visionary design. And the reason I picked this one is I'm seeing you as a visionary. You are certainly changing the way people look at real estate and the way they interact with real estate. And the fact that you are folding in nonprofits in a meaningful way, that is important to me. So I hope you enjoy this 2017 Dwell Visionary magazine that
Awesome.
I am going to
Thank you, Laura.
I'm going to give to you. So there you have it. Okay, so now I have my my lightning round.
All right.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Would you rather? This is my first one.
Okay.
Would you rather be on a broken ski lift or in a broken elevator?
Broken ski lift.
Broken ski lift. Why do you say broken ski lift?
I think I'd get claustrophobic in a broken elevator.
Would you try to climb down from the ski lift, or would you just sit there and wait for someone to rescue you?
If I was close enough to one of the support poles, probably.
Oh, okay. So within 20 feet of
Yeah.
a support
I
pole.
mean, if I was there for like hours and I'm like, this is ridiculous, then I'll get down.
Like overnight.
Oh yeah, if it was getting to night, I would. Yeah.
So you would figure
I'd
out a
get down
way.
before it got
Okay,
dark.
but certainly a ski lift
Yes.
over an elevator. Okay. So the next one, would you prefer to be Spider-Man or Batman?
Batman.
That was quick.
Yeah.
Why Batman? It's the car.
The gadgets,
The
the
gadgets.
uniform, he's smart, stupid smart.
He is.
Not
He's very
stupid
smart.
but smart, yeah.
Yeah.
Just a cooler persona.
Hmm.
I mean, realistically, I'd probably be more like Spider-Man because I'm a little geeky and awkward, but Batman's just cool, so I'd want to be like him.
You'd be more like Batman. Well, as we're surrounded by these gadgets here, so I can see it's
Okay.
kind of like a bat cave.
Sure.
It's kind of it could be a bat cave. Would you rather be completely invisible for one day or able to fly for one day?
Fly.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't even finish the question. Oh my gosh. Okay, why fly versus invisible?
Well, to me, and maybe it's just the dark side of my mind, to be invisible, the only things I could think of would be like doing things you're not supposed to do.
Right.
You know.
That is a good point.
To fly, that'd be pretty amazing.
It'd be
So,
pretty amazing.
I mean, I've done skydiving, and I used to, be airborne, jump out of helicopters and planes, but you're just falling.
Right, because gravity.
Right, gravity, that's pesky. But
Yeah.
so it had to fly, I think.
Okay, and the final one, and I think I'm going to know the answer to this, but we could be mistaken.
Okay.
Would you prefer to explore space or the ocean?
Space.
Wow, there, I knew it. So space is all about being free and
Not trapped underwater, yeah.
not trapped. Okay, so it's the trap thing. So
I'm not. I don't think I'm claustrophobic, but I mean, I might have elements of it. Like I never scuba diving because I'm not a good. I can swim, but like I can never figure out like the whole coordination of like your face in the water out. Like it just
Right.
freaks me out.
yeah, the
So.
whole I shouldn't be
Right, my face shouldn't be in the water.
right. I had heard that that's the trigger point is if you get water on your forehead. As soon as it reaches your forehead, that
Interesting.
is the trigger for a human being to
Okay.
say, I should not be doing this.
That's interesting.
I don't even know why, but I should not be doing that.
Yeah. Huh.
Well, I have really enjoyed interviewing you.
Me too.
Have you enjoyed being in the hot seat?
It's been okay.
It's been
It's
okay.
been okay. Yeah.
It's been okay. All right.
Yep.
Have you learned anything from us switching roles as you interview other people?
Maybe have a little better understanding, a little more empathy for when I'm interviewing, maybe what they're feeling. Because, people come in like, I'm nervous. I'm like, what are you nervous about? I'm like,
we're just going to like completely like open up your soul and see what's inside.
Right, and record it for all time.
Yeah, so, what's wrong with that?
Right.
Absolutely not.
And then some of your questions, very good. So kind of thinking back about like some of the things that may have influenced, why I do things the way I do now and stuff. That's good. Got me thinking.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
I think that's all we can ask for.
Yeah.
Is we are getting people to think a little bit differently.
Yeah.
So I've enjoyed interviewing you. So you are real estate. You've written a book. You're a dad. You like to read business books. Former carpenter. What's the one thing that you can tell us about owning your own business? What's a little bit of advice you would give a business owner who is contemplating leaping into the deep end and owning their small business, whatever it would be?
I'd say surround yourself with people smarter than you or more experienced. Have a official or unofficial board of advisors that you can go to, preferably outside of your industry. That'd be my recommendation.
I like it. And that is a great way to finish the podcast. If people want to learn more about Seatown Real Estate, what's the best place to get a hold of you?
Sure. Just our website, just seatown.com. That's sea-town.com.
All right.
Yep.
And on it, can you find the Seatown podcast?
Yep, there's a link to it and the menu, so, along with the other projects and whatnot. So, yep.
Okay. And you have the full social media suite?
Yep. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Facebook is where we do most of the stuff.
Okay.
Want to get more into Instagram, but there's only so much picture-y things in real estate. So
that's very true.
Yeah.
Well, it was very nice to interview you. Thanks for trusting me
Sure.
with the interview today. And we hope you have enjoyed yourselves listening to Christian Harris from Seatown Real Estate. Thanks very much.
Yeah. Thanks for taking the time, Laura.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
That wraps up this week's episode. Make sure to check out our guest website, pay them a visit, and help spread the word about what they are doing. If you have any questions, know someone who should be a guest on here, or has a great story worth sharing, email me at christianharris@seatown.com. That's sea-town.com. I would also love it if you would go to iTunes and give us a review and a nice 5-star rating. We work hard to bring on great guests and provide exceptional content, and getting a review from you is one way to help the podcast rank well on iTunes so others can find and enjoy the show. You can also find out more about me, how my real estate brokerage is breaking the mold and making a difference in our Seattle communities, and other projects I'm working on by visiting seatown.com, sea-town.com. Thanks for listening. The music for our podcast is courtesy of The Fascination Movement. You can find their albums in the iTunes Store. You can also listen to more episodes and find all our show notes on our website at seatownpodcast.com. This has been a Seatown Media production.